flew to the moon or battled with dragons or travelled through time. He used to take them to his mum and say, "Look at the thing I made, Mum." He made them talk to her. "Hello, madam," they said if they were being polite. "Hello, you nitwit," if they weren't. Mum would join in. She'd pretend to be delighted or mortally offended, and she'd always say, "Sylvester, what a clever lad you are." He smiled to imagine himself as a boy again, to hear her voice again. Was it really so long ago? He whispered to himself. He took a green shirt and a pair of brown trousers from the box of clothes, and he dressed his puppet. He put a little brown cap on its head. He held the puppet up before him. It was as tall as a young child. He held the puppet's arms out wide. "I wonder," he said, "what strange kind of story you might be in." He moved the puppet back and forth across the bench. He made it march. He made it leap. He made it fly. He made it roar as if it was angry or wild. He made it sing and giggle and laugh. "A very serious story," he said in a very serious voice. "A very silly story," he said in a very silly voice. "Maybe a tale where you fall in love," he said, "or a tale filled with perilous adventures. Or maybe you'll fly to Mars, or get eaten by tigers, or—" He laughed and laughed to himself. How wonderful it was to be making a puppet. He looked into the puppet's eyes again. "Hello, puppet," he said. And the puppet said, "Hello." Sylvester stared. Puppet stared back at him with green eyes that were flat and empty. It was just a dream. It had to be. "Hello," Sylvester said again. No answer. "Silly Sylvester," he said to himself. He laid the puppet in the dust and gently touched its cheek. He yawned. It was very late. Time to sleep. "Night, night," he whispered. "See you in the morning." He switched off the light and went back down the steep stairs. Yes, he needed to sleep. 2. The past weeks had been rather busy, rather strange. It started with a letter from a museum. It seemed Sylvester hadn't been forgotten after all. They wanted to make an exhibition of his work. His puppets, his costumes and his stages would be displayed for all the world to see. And of course Sylvester said yes. He'd be so proud to have his work on show for evermore. So it was all arranged. And one morning when Sylvester was in his kitchen having breakfast, there came a knock at the door. 2 men were standing there. "Hello, Sylvester," said one. "My name is Francis, and this is Sol. I think you're expecting us." Sylvester smiled and stepped aside and welcomed them in. Francis and Sol had a load of boxes and bags and packet cases and labels. They hauled him inside. "You're hard to find," said Sol. "I didn't even know this lane existed." Then he stood dead still and gasped in amazement. "Goodness gracious me," said Francis. There it all was, spread around the living room, the remnants of Sylvester's magical puppet theatre. There were dozens of puppets, some of them as big as a child, some no bigger than a toddler's hand, some as small as a finger. They were lying on the sofa and sitting on the chairs. They hung on strings from the walls. There were kings and queens and witches and wizards and ghosts and demons and wide-eyed little girls and boys, animals and dragons and monsters and fairies. Scenery and costumes and curtains were laid out on the furniture and spread out across the carpet. A lifetime's work, Sylvester said. For a time, the men from the museum just looked at these things in wonder. When they set to work, they were nervous, and Sylvester saw that they were worried about how he was feeling. "It's all right," he told them gently. "Do what you have to do." The men relaxed, but they were careful and gentle with everything. They kept saying how beautiful it all was, how wonderfully well made. "I saw you," said Sol. "I saw your show." Sylvester smiled. "You did?" "Yes, when I was a boy. You came to our school in South Shields. It was—" He suddenly reached out and lifted a particular puppet and laughed out loud. "And he was in it," he exclaimed. "It was a play about the dark, dark forest." "Ha ha," said Sylvester. "How wonderful. This is Jack, and that was one of his very best shows." "It was fantastic. I remember him tiptoeing deeper and deeper into the dark." "And do you remember how he ended up?" asked Sylvester.